Unless you were literally born yesterday, I think it's impossible to not know this song.
The final countdown.
The Final Countdown by Europe. This song was massive. It reached number 1 in 25 countries in 1986. 25! But it's a miracle this song happened in the first place. It came from a Swedish hard rock band. What were they doing making a tune like this? And they actually refused to record it for 3 or 4 years. And what happened to the band afterwards? Were they really a one-hit wonder? So let's go through the full story of this song. And as always, if you love music history like me, make sure to subscribe and join our pack. And a huge thank you to my viewer and Patreon supporter Klaus Lomar for the idea behind this video. He used my Google form, link is in the description below, and he asked this. Being a teen in the 80s, I remember many one-hit wonders that are still top today. The Final Countdown from Europe is one of them. Well, I organised a festival in 1984, and an unknown band sent me a demo. Cool sound, but more a homemade demo on a 4-track recorder. I didn't boost the band, but hey, who would have guessed that Europe would become that big? So maybe make a series about the one-hit wonders and what has become of the musicians. We'll get on to the whole one-hit wonder thing a bit later on, because it is a bit of a misconception, but I do think the story behind this song is brilliant. So thanks again for the suggestion, and thanks for being a patron to the channel too. So before the Final Countdown, Europe had already released 2 albums and found some decent success in their home country of Sweden. 1983's self-titled album reached number 8, and 1984's Wings of Tomorrow reached number 20 there. If you listen to their earlier songs, it really is baffling that the same band came up with the Final Countdown. The band members were influenced by the giants of British rock, like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Rainbow, and UFO. And you can certainly hear that in their earlier work. Here's 1985's Rock the Night, the original version. Again, lots of UFO influence in that song, a bit of Thin Lizzy, I think, as well. Europe was a hard rock band inspired by the hard rock greats. So how on earth did they ever come up with a song like The Final Countdown? Well, the song actually started life when someone by the name of Rolf Magnus Joachim Larsson was still a student. We know him now as Joey Tempest. Joey borrowed a keyboard from a friend of his at college, Mick McKaylee. McKaylee would actually later join Europe as well. The keyboard was a Korg Poly 6, whatever that is. And it's with that keyboard that Joey Tempest found the sound for that incredibly iconic and long intro. He knew he had something with that riff, but he wasn't quite able to write a full song around it. So he recorded a short demo and popped it in his pocket for a later date. He eventually fished it out of his pocket, all thanks to a nightclub the band went to frequently. We were hanging out at this bar that had disco starting at 12 o'clock with a huge laser show and everything. They asked me, "Do you have any music for this?" Because we used to hang there. I dug up that little demo. We got to stand there having a few drinks on Friday night at 12 o'clock as the laser show started with that piece of music from that demo. We were standing there going, maybe this could be something. So from there, Tempest worked on the song some more. And again, with inspiration from UFO, Tempest used a drum machine to lay down that driving beat. Later, their producer, Kevin Elson, who had also worked with Journey, suggested changing it to what's called a 4-on-the-floor beat, which basically means playing the bass drum on every beat, really popular with disco and dance songs. But Tempest stood his ground and stuck with the UFO-style beat he first had in mind. I think that was the right decision as well. Do you? Anyway, then with David Bowie's Space Oddity and Starman in his mind, Tempest was fascinated with space just like Bowie. He came up with lyrics like leaving together and heading for Venus. I played it probably 100 times, singing until the right words came. One day it just came, the final countdown. After that drum fill, I knew that the verses and everything were leading up to the same thing that he was singing about, leaving the earth floating out there and going somewhere else. So then he showed his bandmates. And at this point, it was a 6.5-minute demo, and it was a very different song than the band were used to. They were a hard rock guitar band after all, and here's Joey Tempest trying to pitch the final countdown. When I first heard that synth intro, my reaction was, no, this is nuts. We just can't use this. Thank God they didn't listen to me. Because of how different it was kept off their first 2 albums. However, with album 3, the first with new label Epic Records, they decided to go all in and shake things up. Tempest had to fight hard just to get the song used. In the end, it would become the title track. They recorded the song in 1985 with producer Kevin Elson and released the song as the lead single in 1986. And then it just took off. It wasn't long before it was topping the charts in countries all over the world. Europe was suddenly in the global big leagues. But all of this turned out to be a bit too much for guitarist John Norum, who quit the band towards the end of 1986. There's a whole mess of reasons as to why he left. Tempest says he was always an underground guy and didn't enjoy the endless TV shows and promotional activities. He also talks about communication issues in the band as well. I had songs that I wanted to record, and it kept being that there was no space. Joey and the manager were the bosses. It had turned into 2 camps. Those guys on one side bossing everyone around, and the band were on the other. Norum didn't like the whole image that Europe had gained, the hairstyles and magazine covers. It wasn't exactly his thing. Norum himself says it was because of differences in musical directions and a disagreement with the band's manager. He also wasn't a fan of the way the album was mixed. He thought that the keyboards completely buried his guitar. Norum went on to have a brilliant career as a solo act and with another band. And let's be honest, he probably could live off the royalties of just the final countdown anyway. He did rejoin Europe in 2003 as well. And going back to my patron Klaus Lomar and his suggestion that Europe were a one-hit wonder, well, technically they weren't. The year after the final countdown, the single Carry reached number 3 in the US. But I certainly wouldn't blame you for thinking this band was a one-hit wonder, because of course they never quite topped the final countdown. When you think of Europe, you think of that song. Topping that song would be an impossible task. Plus, their sudden success was starting to have some negative effects on the band. The record company treated us as a pop act. The success of our song Carry in America then made us a ballad band. It really drained our morale. To be fair, that must be really annoying when you're actually a hard rock band. Plus, of course, they encountered a problem that every band has when a single blows up. Attracting the wrong sort of crowd, playing shows to audiences who are only there for one song, and silent throughout the rest. So they were at a crossroads for their next album. Do we try to replicate the final countdown, or do we stay true to our roots? I did try to come up with something similar, but realized the original was just too good. We'd just have ended up a parody of ourselves. So the new album, produced by Ron Nevinson, who had worked with Led Zeppelin, The Who, and, you guessed it, UFO, was a reminder to the world that they were a rock band. It was a statement of sorts. And from there, despite never coming close to the success of the final countdown, the band marched on and had quite the illustrious career. In fact, they're still active today. So there you go, not a one-hit wonder. They just popped into the mainstream to say hello and then went back to their hard rock selves, out of your peripheral vision. I have a lot of respect for that. Thanks again to Klaus for suggesting this video idea, and if you want to be a patron to the channel just like Klaus and get your name listed down there, the link is in the description. And speaking of previously hard rock Nordic bands who find success through one brilliant synthesizer riff, check out my full story behind Take On Me by a-ha, a song that also had no business being a smash hit. That one's just over there.